make sure we are moving together as a team, would want to request all participants to always make sure their videos are switched off, and 2, their microphones are muted. Whoever wants to ask a question, please, you can always raise up your hand. We shall give you an opportunity to ask the question. All please type the question within the chat room, and definitely there are a variety of experts there to support you in answering that question you should have raised. So at this particular point in time, not to waste any more of our time, I'm going to request Dr. Drake Mirembe to kickstart the session. And please, you can take record as much as possible for any information that you feel it is important to you. Drake, I would want to request you to share your screen, the PPT.
Okay.
We get started.
Okay. Okay, I think there I should be ready to go.
Drake, you can put it in the presentation mode, please.
Are you seeing the presentation mode, colleagues?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay, I may have to let me put on my video so that you can have a chance to see me. So, good morning once again, colleagues. So between now and for the next 2 hours, we have two sessions. Someone's mic is on.
Hilda, please, can you mute?
Yeah, colleagues, help. Thank you. So I'm going to run the first session, which will take us about 45 minutes or 1 hour. And thereafter, Prof. Jude will cover the last session that will take us to the mid-break of 1:30 p.m. Ugandan time or West African time. So without further ado, allow me to take you through the basis of teaching and learning with technology and appreciating the role change of a 21st century teacher, or what we call a digital teacher and a digital native student or learner. Okay, so allow me begin with this quote that we need to appreciate that critical success factor in successful and effective teaching and learning is a skill of a teacher in creating an environment that combines both learner support, on and offline activities, resources, but more importantly, that as a good teacher, you must stimulate collaboration and communication between you, the teacher, and the learner. Okay. Oh, I hope, are you seeing my screen or something is happening on the screen? Something is happening, my screen is being slow, freezing. Okay. My screen is a bit slower. I don't know what is the challenge. Let me give it a second.
Can I share from my side?
Yes, okay, can somebody share, then you just click to it.
You could share, then I run through it. I think it will be better.
Your network is not very good, Drake.
I have both MTN and Airtel, so I don't know what's the problem. And all these 2 classes here. So, to share, I work with your slide.
And share yours.
I have to stop. Okay. Start. Okay. Good. So learning models, with the changing, we have to appreciate that there's been an evolution of the Industrial Revolution, right from the steam engine to the electronic age, now to the information age. Okay? And the digital age really has revolutionized the way we live and work. So how do people learn in a new digital environment? We no longer learn from the classroom. We learn from everywhere. How do institutions teach in the digital era? We are no longer going to be constrained by the physical classroom or by the mere books. Learning is everyday activity. So, Prof, switch quick. So, therefore, there's a need for new learning models. Models that allow students great autonomy, models that shift a teacher from being a commander to a process facilitator, but also institutions' readiness for e-learning. Today, most institutions calculate staff out time in terms of contact hours, which is the time the lecturer spends standing in front of a student, which is no longer the case because students are sending WhatsApp messages, they are sending emails, and so on. So learning institutions must be ready and adjust in terms of how learning is managed. More importantly is the cost. Because if you look at the way we deliver the traditional mode of learning, the cost to a lecturer is fixed. But in a modern time, in terms of how many hours you spend interacting with your students can actually be almost endless. So we would like institutions to reflect on how they integrate e-learning by being reflectful of the changing environment. So that's the change that is happening. The learners have changed, technology has changed, the expectation has changed, and also the methods of work is changing. We can continue, Prof. So what I've been sharing is really an appreciation of what you call an inverted classroom or a flipped classroom. As you can see on that screen, the traditional model is you stand, you give instructions. So the students listen to you, you know it all, you're in a fixed space. In a flipped classroom, it is more about constructivism of knowledge. Learners access knowledge in the everyday life, and as a lecturer, your role shifts to largely on facilitation of the discussions and generation of new ideas and conceptualization of knowledge. So students watch lectures at home. Today, there's a lot of learning on TVs, on radios, on YouTube, and many others. So that appreciation of a flipped classroom requires new skills, new tools, and of course, new technologies. Next. Okay, so again, re-emphasizing the change in our education environment. One, that we appreciate, particularly in Africa, there's a rapidly growing population. With it, an opportunity of what we call population dividend. So the higher number of students desiring to access higher education cannot be accommodated by bare existing brick and mortar ivory towers. We need virtual institutions. Tuition fees. The economies are not growing as fast as they desire. To have an opportunity to deliver quality education at optimal cost. So the facilities, also education, all these are creating opportunities for application of technology in learning. Last but not least, previously we used to have a model of you study and complete.
If Drake has got off, then Jude, you could just continue. I understand he's having a problem with his network.
In an information age, is a principle of lifelong learning. Every job you attain today, and skills continuously. Hello? Promoting the learning. Continue.
Drake, your network seems to be a bit slow.
Next. If it's too bad, then I'm going to allow you to. Prof.
Okay. Your network is flipping a bit.
Okay, can just help me continue. Let me try to switch to another network.
Yeah, Jude, you can continue.
Okay, colleagues, what you notice that in today's classroom, it is a classroom that now contains a lot of digital resources, whether with your knowledge or without your knowledge. The students we are teaching today come already with gadgets, having read all the content you want to read, to teach, either via YouTube or via any learning management system if a university has one. So it is no longer the traditional classroom we have today. And already even research is showing that adoption of ICT in teaching and learning does quite a lot in improving our education across the different levels. Let's take an example, as you may see here. When the one research indicated that 76% of participants adapted to diverse learning styles. So e-learning allows adaptation to a variety of different learning styles. Also, 77% felt that it boosts students' motivation. And also 76% also felt it enhances material being taught. So you see the potential that e-learning brings to our education arena is quite very beneficial. So the classroom we have today containing the digital students is no longer the classroom we used to have several years back. And we need to appreciate this and be able to adapt to the new norm that we need to have. Colleagues, by talking about e-learning, what we need to appreciate that it is no longer the so-called electronic e-learning. The E has been envisaged to be beyond the only word electronic, but to accommodate a lot of things in it. And therefore, this is showing a lot of different models coming into be because of the different modifications and innovations coming into play. And this is why when we are talking about e-learning, we talk about a learning that can allow students to be engaged at all times. A learning that brings this enthusiasm within the students that even tomorrow, the next hour, they would want to continue learning and learning and learning. That learning, that is all about exchanging, that the teacher can be able to exchange and the students can be able to exchange between each other, whatever they want to exchange, whether it's resources and so on and so forth. It's the learning that allows enriching, that the traditional class you had, you have enriched it with online courses that students are able to take on from anywhere at any time and at their wish. Learning that is about enhancing. Let's take an example of discussions, that you would want all students to participate in discussions, but you have a few of them who are shy and they cannot do it in class. But then you create an online discussion and you have everybody participating. You've enhanced. Learning that is about extending beyond the physical presence. That is learning that can take place anywhere at any time, as long as the participants have agreed. Learning that is there to empower, that is able to empower the learners out there, irrespective of their status, whether they are shy learners, they can come in and be able to participate in their learning. And learning that allows you to embed. If you are going to explain a concept much clearly, you may decide to embed something in form of an animation, something in form of a video, to allow that explanation to reach home the way you would want it to reach. And learning that is entertaining. Colleagues, today, if students go to a boarding class, you lose them. By providing a class that is entertaining, you'll keep with those students. So the E has only ceased to be electronic and adapted all those particular forms. So when you talk about e-learning, your e-learning should be able to provide all this E with you, and so on and so forth. What we have today, colleagues, is that many of the lecturers, many of the teachers, they are scared to change. And the biggest hurdle that is scaring them to change is because they are stuck in their memories. Many of us have been teaching for the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, and they feel the way they taught so many years back is the same way they need to continue teaching. In that way, they are stuck. And this is an obstacle to change within our institutions because we are stuck in our memories. And what we keep on doing is that many people or many lecturers at institutions, they have less time looking in the rear view mirror to assess what they are doing, to find out whether whatever they are doing is in harmony with the current era. Remember, they are teaching digital students, and probably for them, they are just digital migrants. So for any 21st century lecturer, they really need to have a vision of where they want to go in line with the students they are teaching within that class. But because our institutions have accommodated all this, we sort of get into that comfort zone and we don't want to change, and we still get stuck in our memories, which we need to change. Our students we have currently, some of them are what we call consenting students. And probably even within these institutions, we have systems that have encouraged them to consent to what is available. We have staff who have this know-it syndrome. I've been teaching for so many years, and therefore I know it. I can only transmit knowledge. The student cannot teach me. Some of the lecturers feel that students are there to just be recipients of knowledge rather than being knowledge creators. Some of the lecturers still feel that students go into class to cram and pass. And also, some of the lecturers never have the time to reflect on what they are teaching about and the learning practices they are using. This has kept us so behind in our teaching and learning, and has deterred many of the lecturers and institutions from moving forward into adoption of technologies for teaching and learning. But what you need to know is that the time for that is no more. There has been a paradigm shift, and with the coming of COVID-19, this paradigm shift has never been as fast as it is right now. And so many other fueling situations have encouraged this paradigm shift to act even very, very fast. We are seeing students who know their rights today, and therefore they demand for effective teaching. Once they see other institutions using E, they will come and request to be also taught using E. Students want to participate actively into their teaching. The past where they were there as recipients is no more. They want to be there and construct knowledge. Students are sort of on the move. We have so many students who are working class, who can be sent anywhere across the world and would want to continue learning. And therefore, they need that sort of learning which is ubiquitous in nature. And we are so lucky that technology has come in to enable all this to happen. It can allow the ubiquitous, it can allow content sharing, it can allow, so technology is just ready to support this paradigm shift. The classes are no longer fixed. They are dynamic in nature, that lecturers can decide to go anywhere and have their class take place as long as they can deliver the point home. If somebody is teaching about the environment, they are capable of going within the forests, the lake shores, and also, and they are able to deliver the concepts around environment in the best way possible. So the learning classrooms have become innovative. They are no longer fixed in one place. Classes have become more collaborative in nature and require problem solving than ever before, because each one comes with their own knowledge. Students come when they've already read, and the teacher comes with also their knowledge. And therefore, it requires them to sit and collaborate, problem solve, and be able to learn in the best way possible. So colleagues, and coupled with epidemics like we have right now, there is no better time of adoption than it is right now, because there has been a shift. We have no alternative. There are two people in the world that has been very instrumental. Gandhi once said, "We must be the change we want to see in the world." And then Alvin says the greatest skill in the next century will be the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So colleagues, whoever is listening right now, and you're a lecturer out there who goes in the class and continues to teach using the traditional ways, you need to sit down and reflect about the current situation and the future of education across the world. But change starts with you, and probably right now. So what is your role as a teacher? It should be a teacher who is interested in reform. You're interested in getting things better. That you try as much as you can to create that environment that will support your students to learn in the best way possible, to provide for them in terms of resources, books, and things of that kind. One who will utilize a variety of teaching methods to allow education to happen irrespective of wherever you are. Institutions are trying to respond to this current situation. But then there are certain things that pushing them to reflect about whatever is happening. One of them has been that institutions never know their teachers and their strength. If they are going to allow and support teachers to improve their education, they need to know them. Are they competent in ICT skills? Are they competent in e-pedagogy? And so on and so forth. But they do not know. Year by year passes by, and they do not know who is good in what. Every day, people keep on telling us education in higher institution is declining. We are seeing no more innovations coming out. What is happening? It is on a decline day by day. These are critics that are within institutions. We have so many staff members who are unwilling to improve in teaching because they are stuck in their memories. We have still several teaching and learning methodologies which are outdated and still stuck within our educational system. We are having several lecturers who are focused on the teacher-centered than being learner-centeredness in terms of teaching and learning. We have an increasing student population, but with depleted and infrastructure remaining the same, and we expect all these students to be taught within that, but not thinking innovatively on how we can do better. And we're having more and more epidemics on their way. Nobody actually really faced that we would have such an epidemic, we would have a political instability, but education has to continue. So institutions are really, really thinking about all this and saying, I think it is the right time we improve our educational systems. And as a teacher, as a lecturer, being part of the stakeholders, you really need to be part of this journey. And this is the reason why we need to come and understand the pedagogy around what we do. So pedagogy is just the art, science and art of teaching, or teaching and learning. So when we talk about e-pedagogy, we are trying to find out what is that art of teaching and learning. If you are within the tradition, what is that science and art of teaching and learning? But it is that effective pedagogical practices that promote the well-being of students, teachers, and the school community. So as long as you do things within the educational system that promote the well-being of students and the teachers and the school community, here you are practicing effective pedagogy. Whether it's in the E, whether it's not in the E. It's that which builds community confidence in quality of learning and teaching within an institution. When you have effective teaching and learning happening, definitely there will be confidence in what is being offered to the students. And therefore, quality learning will take place. Effective pedagogy improves students and teachers' confidence and contributes to their sense of purpose being at the school. This is why they will come back the following day to continue learning, because what they expect or what they get out of the institution is effective teaching and learning. And also, it aligns learning goals, activities, and assessments so that you have this what we call a balanced learning process. That you have goals connected to the activities, and you have assessment connected to the goals and things of that kind, so that everything is taken care of during the teaching of that particular course unit. Having said all that, so what do you need to be an effective teacher? One, an effective teacher should be able to know their subject matter at a deep level. You do not want to get surprised by a student who will ask you something within the same area and you cannot be able to answer. So knowing your matter at a deep level is very, very, very critical. You need to have a good art of teaching skills, this pedagogy. What should I use to be able to deliver this learning? There are so many approaches out there, but what can I do to make sure this is taught in the best way possible? By doing so, you have what we have called pedagogical knowledge. So it is very, very, very important to have this pedagogical knowledge with you so that you can be able to roll it out across your teaching. A lecturer, an effective lecturer, should be able to prepare. They should be able to prepare very well for their class sessions. They need to be able to understand their syllabus and whatever they're teaching about. Therefore, they need to go ahead and study it either from their deans, from the prospectus, whatever, but they need to clearly understand it. They need to be able to understand the time they have to teach that course unit. If it's spread across 15 weeks, how many topics are there? And what do I distribute across any activity? And which ones are going to be personal? Which ones are going to be group and things of that kind? Planning, preparation is very, very critical. They need to be able to decide on what activities they would use to engage students in prior to the actual teaching, so that they prepare accordingly. If it's a discussion forum, what questions are you going to ask students? Are they open-ended? Are they closed-ended? Do they encourage this continuous engagement amongst the students or not? You need to inform the students what you are going to really be teaching about, so that the students can follow ably as they actually do what? The learning or the teaching takes place. You need to use, if you're using a bullet point, a PowerPoint, use bullets in trying to really lay out whatever you want to teach. So you need to avoid a situation whereby you get the students reading more of your PowerPoints than listening to you. Otherwise, you will not have control of your class because you leave them behind as they try to read. Avoid cramming your slides, because once a student asks you a question midway, the cram work will disappear and you get a problem. So develop all these lecture notes so that you can allow interruptions as they come in, and you address these interruptions in form of questions. Your content should be that which allows you to get students participate collaboratively in the teaching. Otherwise, when you get there and talk for 1 hour, 2 hours without getting them to come in and ask questions, or you asking questions and all that, it gets boring. And it gets more boring if it's a virtual classroom, it's an online classroom where you don't have students in front of you. So you need to be able to bring in as many as possible real world problems, case studies, and things of that kind to connect with whatever you are teaching. Sometimes, depending on the time you have for the entire semester, you may need to actually put together 1 or 2 topics together, which are similar or which those ones that follow each other, so that you can be able to drive your concept much ably at home to the students than independently teaching these subjects alone. What you need to do is that you do not make students get used to a certain way of teaching. Today, if you use a lecture notes, tomorrow you may use role play, the following day you may use a discussion forum. Try to get them to understand that there are so many other variety of ways or methods that teaching can be done. This will get your class entertaining, and will allow students to always come back and have this part of training take place. I know there's a lot of discussions that happen and can get very confusing when it gets online. But always remember, a mix and match questions in a discussion is very critical and allows students to really balance all what they've been studying about. So ask questions that can get students to comprehend. And not only questions that can get students comprehend, but even other questions, the general ones, so that they know it's not all the same all the time. Always be there as a lecturer, show interest in whatever they are discussing. Where possible, come in and supplement and try to get students remain focused on whatever they are discussing about. Create a situation where you can connect the different ideas. An idea brought in by another student to this particular student, so that they get to see that their lecturer is with them at all times. However, you need to always first reflect on what you're going to say. Remember, in this, you are a facilitator. So when you say something wrong, it can lead to another further discussion in there that can get you on the wrong side of students. Remember, they have so much time to dig and read around for information. So they come very well prepared. But you always need to remain in control. You are the teacher. So if somebody, either one of the students is saying something that is not good for the discussion, you have the right to say, no, stop it. Somebody bullying or doing all sorts of things within your class, you have the right to take them out as you do it in the physical classroom. By doing so, you are being effective in your teaching and learning. Group work is one of those activities that really gets students to participate fully and creates this sort of bonding amongst their fellow students. So allow this to happen, but get them to understand that each and every person has to participate within the group work and have opportunities where you could be able to test out each individual student about the group work they've been able to undertake. Never forget to avail feedback where possible within the group, because the students will feel the sense of support being got from the lecturer. And they like this so much. Don't overcrowd the groups. Make them smaller so that you can allow each individual person to participate within the groups. Always be clear to them and have clear instructions to them. For example, participation is mandatory, and whoever does not participate will be penalized. This is to encourage them to work together as a group. You need to allow them to get them understand that they are diverse in nature, and therefore their opinions will differ. But they need to be able to appreciate each other's opinion, and then at a particular point agree on what they have to move to with as a group. So they may not agree, but at a particular point, they need to move ahead as a group and present something as a group. Always get them to understand that deadlines are deadlines. And therefore, be very strict on your deadlines, whether in the physical classroom, whether in an online classroom. But it's very, very important for you to inform them about these deadlines, because when it gets online, it is a system which will close down, and they should not be able to submit anymore. And never forget again to avail feedback within the agreed upon time. If it's a continuous assessment, avail the feedback before another continuous assessment. Not availing feedback at the end of the semester, or not even availing NA. Once they see this, they will actually understand that this lecturer never avails feedback, and they will do things for the sake of just submitting. Never forget to apply assessment, which is both formative and summative, and very important to make sure that the students are working along with you. So what you need to do as you prepare your content, think about the assessments you are going to avail to your students, whether it's formative, whether it's summative. Formative in a way that's a continuous assessment, and summative is sort of examinations you are supposed to provide to students. You need to be able to go through them to make sure that they are in line with the course content you have been teaching. You can deploy a lot of assessment methods, including open book online examinations and the like. And therefore, you really need to know how to set those examinations, or else you'll end up giving away your exam cheaply to the students. But you need to think about asking questions that can provoke originality to students. Avoid as much as possible closed questions, because they don't really bring out that discussion you would really want to have from the students, and therefore portraying that they actually acquired the knowledge out of your class. Colleagues, as we move out of that, it is so important that after having seen this paradigm shift change, we are seeing a lot of institutions rushing into certain things, and we feel that they need to have a bit of some pedagogy around how they do that. And one of the things we have seen, which is becoming common, is video conferencing, using Zoom, using Google Classroom, using Big Blue Button, and things of that kind. But colleagues, you really need to be very mindful about all this, because it can destroy the entire learning session in the way you never thought about. And this is why it is important that within this session 1 and 2, we bring out some of the etiquettes that you need to be mindful about as you venture into the e-learning. You need to be able to prepare in case you're going to be offering a video conferencing session via Zoom, via Big Blue Button, via Google Classroom, and things of that kind. Prepare ahead of time. So you need to be able to avail, for example, resources online to the students, so that when you come onto the online class, you are more of facilitating what you've already availed out to them. Okay? If you are going to be able to offer, you are slotted to offer that class session, and you are unable to avail yourself for that class session because something has happened, try as much as possible to inform the students that you are unable to come in. Because remember, some of these students are working, they are leaving everything they need to leave to be able to attend to that class. So if you do not just appear the way you do it in the physical classroom, it will be even more annoying. Sure, you have good internet connectivity so that you are able to give this class without any interruption. Never forget to check your audio and visual settings so that they are working fine, or else you may end up talking to yourself for a full hour when nobody is actually hearing you. At this point, I would want to find out, am I loud and clear?
Yes.
Very much, Prof.
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Yes.
Okay, I'll continue. As you venture into that online class, you need to be able to dress appropriately. You know, it is so disappointing that you'll go and dress appropriately and you go and deliver that class and you'll have a permanent digital print out there in the media. And every time people will be referring to you, you went into a class taught in an underwear or a bra and things of that kind. Always, as you venture into going for any online class, please dress appropriately the way you can see me dressed. If it's a suit, put on the suit so that people get to know that you are doing the right thing. So dress professionally the way you would dress as you go into that physical classroom. These are etiquettes that we need to have with us at all times. Beware of your surroundings. So if your students are able to see whatever you are teaching from, they will say, no wonder that lecturer is as confused as his office. Because they can see the confusion in there. So beware of your surrounding, where you are presenting from. Let it not be a bathroom. Let it not be a place where you are receiving a lot of interruption. You never know, you may have a pile of clothes that are being dried at your back because you're at home. Ensure your background is not dark. It's not a messy room. It's not too noisy. And it does not have the distractions. Because whatever you are doing there is actually being recorded and it will be a permanent print out there. Getting that out of the internet will be as hard as anything. You never want to be referred to all the time for having given a class in such a messy place. It's good that somebody has just done it there. Always mute your microphones if you're not speaking. I would want to request somebody who has not muted his microphone to do so that you avoid giving that sort of uncalled voice from wherever you are. So avoid it as much as possible. Mute your microphone when you're not talking. Simple. You need to be able to speak out. Don't forget to tell them who you are from the beginning so that they get to know it is their lecturer there with them. So you need to be able to speak out very well so that they can be able to hear you, because sometimes you don't know wherever they are seated, their audio is not very good and things. So when you talk softly, they may not really be able to hear you well. Even your microphone may not be as good as that. And then if you speak very softly, they will not be able to hear you very well. So you need to be able to do that also. You need to be very professional and avoid those scandals. Because it's an apple and you feel hungry, you can go out there and eat an apple as you teach. Just imagine, do you often do that in a physical classroom, that you are eating an apple as you are teaching with a white marker? Why would you be doing it in a virtual classroom? Flirting with students because they're not in front of you and you can simply say anything. You never know who that student is seated with. It could be their parent. And they hear a teacher simply flirting with their own child. Shouting at students, what you portray out there, it may not be very good. Making racist, tribalistic, sexist comments and things of that kind should be avoided. And why am I saying should be avoided? Because you are creating a digital print that they will play tomorrow, the other day, after 1 year, after 2 years, and always they're saying, oh, Judy did ABCD. What a shame. Throwing insult students, discussing politics or non-political things in class, sharing pornography, just reading content from pamphlets and things of that kind should be avoided. Just keep it professional. You need to be able to protect sensitive information because you're going to share your screen. If you're not an expert, make sure all the other files you don't want to be seen are closed, because you might by mistake share something that you would not want other people to see. So always make sure information you do not want to see is away from your screen, or else you may get into trouble. Switch off your cameras if you are not actually or going away from your camera. Don't be, I'm using this as an example, don't be like that meeting that took place and you see the camera is still capturing the toilet. What? Avoid it, because you don't know actually it is happening. So if you're going away from your what, switch off your microphone and switch off your camera. Simple. It is an etiquette that you need to have with you at all time.
Goodbye. All right.
Avoid
Bye.
such a scenario that after the teaching class, you're at home and you end up in such a scenario whereby people can be able, the students can be able to see you at all times. This is very, very dangerous and real. So if you don't know,
Jen, call him.
if you don't know
Oh
that
my
it's actually
gosh.
happening, it is real happening. People are messing up, and it will be a permanent
Pictures of that.
digital print that you'll have. So colleagues, you need to be able to learn some of those
Oh, boy.
etiquettes and avoid them. It is an embarrassment to your entire class
I can see
the moment you do that. You see? Avoid as much as possible. They are simple things, but they can embarrass you for a lifetime. As a lecturer, you do not want students to make fun of you because you did not switch off or you did not take the necessary etiquettes as you venture into an online classroom. Colleagues, that marks the first part of session 1 and session 2. And at this point, if there are any questions, supplements, and all that, would really want to have this. It was made we venture into a more pedagogical aspect of e-learning. So any questions, my colleagues and all that can also come in and try to address them. Francis there, Drake there, all other people there. So many.
My question is, Prof, how many minutes, given the time slots we have, can we say maybe 5, 8, 10 minutes? Francis, you need to advise. Thank you.
I hope these comments in the chat room are being observed and taking questions and all that, because we would really want to not leave them unattended.
We're observing everything, Professor.
Yeah, while we do respond to the comments, we think at this point the audience are given opportunity to raise their questions. So you can raise your hand and get picked so you can have a question live. We don't see any hands so far.
So can we, anyway, we have given them 5 minutes, so people are thinking about.
You can prepare for the second. Effective steps to learning so that you can move on.
But are we stopping the 5 minutes to give them? Let's just give 1 or 2.
5. There are 2 minutes remaining out of the 5. I'm watching. Okay. Fiona, are you online? We have 1 minute, Prof.
My hand is up.
Francis, are you seeing the hands?
Yes, there are 2 hands up. We have Hilda and then Mukund.
Geoffrey. Godfrey. Yes.
So maybe we start with Hilda.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Prof. Jude for the presentation. My niche is, there's a question which was asked in the chat, and I would request that probably he throws some more light on it and maybe how to help members deal with that. That is the question about dealing with learners, students that do not participate in the group discussion. How do the lecturers deal with this situation? In your view? Thank you very much.
Okay. Prof, would you like to make it? Prof?
Okay, I think Prof would have stepped out. Drake, can you answer?
Okay, so I can, yes, I can make a comment on the tweet. So there are colleagues, there are many approaches. Let me put my face up so that people maybe see me. There are many approaches in how you can provide effective participation. So I would speak from experience and from theory and practice. So ideally, that's why it's very important when you're designing your course for delivery. One of the activities you're going to do at the end of this session is that we're going to take you through a tool of effective course design. You must plan every activity, every session, so that the learners are actually engaged. One we see is that when you have group activities, don't assess them based on maybe papers they are presented. We do what you call a session which is based on individual participation and individual contribution. So get the learners, have the oral presentation of their work. From the oral presentation, you'll actually be able to determine what level of contribution someone has done. A case in a point, if I give students to build a mobile application has about 4 different processes. One is requirement engineering. 2 is actually designing the business logic. 3rd is actually implementing the application. That's the interface, the database, and the actual the rendering servers. So from each of those, you can actually be able to identify what level of contribution the individual candidate has been able to make. So that one we see has been more effective in establishing the individual level of contribution, as opposed to when the students do research and simply submit work and you are unable to tell the level of an individual contribution. That's one way we have done it, and we seem to be very effective. I'll let other colleagues, I know in this forum, I have seen Anthony had an idea, and other colleagues can contribute to different practices they have applied. Thank you, Francis.
Yeah,
okay.
Just Prof, before you come in, I just in addition to what Drake is saying, normally if the submission is to be done by the group, on the cover of the group work, the submission, everyone's contribution must be stated clearly, so that even if it is not a presentation, as Drake has said, you are able to gauge what somebody has done. So it is upon you as the facilitator to ensure that a group member, every group member understands that they need to give contribution and show what contribution they have given. But before you come, we have Mukundane Charles, who has a hand up. So maybe you can give him an opportunity to ask a question.
Yes, please go ahead. Unmute yourself and go ahead.
Is actually unmuted.
Charles, we don't hear you.
Hello.
Okay. Yes, Godfrey.
Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Charles from Bishop State University. Mine is just a comment. I actually want to appreciate the presentation given by Professor Jude. And I was looking at how possible this can be for all the lecturers in university to get such presentation, such an important knowledge. Because as I can see, really students could be missing out there. So there is a need, ladies and gentlemen, to disseminate such an information to almost all lecturers who are giving out knowledge to students, because students out there could be missing up this important knowledge. So the presentation actually gives more knowledge to lecturers so that they can be able to also teach their students. So I would request that if there can be a way of disseminating this information to all other lecturers in different universities in Uganda, then Uganda and the world actually can can go to a better place in as far as teaching is concerned. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that comment. I think we'll make sure that this presentation is available. But as I said at the beginning when we were opening, is that this training will try as much as possible to intensify and make sure that it reaches every part of the network. We do acknowledge that at the beginning, not everyone is able to attend, but we'll find a way of reaching everybody, including repeating this kind of training to different audiences. But just before Professor
Francis, I have a comment on that. The other part is, Godfrey, that we can also, at individual institutions, if they have the capacity to organize themselves, we can actually deliver this kind of beyond the forum network to support you in the way that you can. So this is something that can also be arranged if you talk to Prof. Besides the forum. Or just a confirmation, Francis, yes.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to recognize the presence of some individuals who are very important here. We have with us the Deputy Board Chair of RUFORUM, Professor Teresa Akenchi. We do acknowledge your presence, Professor, and we hope that you enjoy the training.
I did. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And also we have with us Professor Kay, who is also a member of our RUFORUM International Advisory Panel. You are also welcome, and please enjoy yourself throughout this training. I think we also have Professor Mahood Kabatanasi, who is the Vice Chancellor of Bishop Stewart University in Uganda. So we do welcome you, and we'll be recognizing you as we go along.
Thanks very much, Dr. Otto. And also I will put a few ideas onto the chat from time to time.
Thank you very much. We have already seen some of the comments coming from you. So Professor Jude, can you go ahead?
Okay, thank you, colleagues, for all the comments, and we keep on picking the comments as we go along. So colleagues, what we are going to be looking at right now is what are those first steps to effective e-learning? And what we are going to be looking at here is first, what is the reality there? What are those problems around course design? And what is that effective course design we need to have? And after this session 3, we shall dive into a bit of a practical exercise for a few minutes to really see whether we can attest with what we have just been going through. Now, our quote comes back again. I'm throwing this back to you so that you reflect around it. Think about the class environment that you are using currently, now, today, all that you used yesterday. What is that support you are able to provide? What is that you brought in that stimulated collaborativeness, communication amongst peer-to-peer? This is very, very, very important for a 21st century lecturer. What is the reality today? E-learning is being looked at as a new pedagogical construct by many people out there. But they never take time to think that all what is done in e-learning is just the adapted teaching methods used in the traditional setting. Are we trying to say there were no discussion forums in the traditional setting? There was no group work? There was no assessment? So what they need to understand that when we go E, it's just a delivery method that is coming in to enhance what we are doing in education. The other reality on ground that online courses should be developed. Not everything that is out there online is good for education. An online newspaper may not necessarily be good for education. So online courses should take into consideration the learner needs, and then the available teaching and delivery methods, because there are a variety out there. So as you develop your course unit, you need to think about all these. Who are my learners? Are they tactile learners? Are they audio learners? Are they visual learners? Who are they? And how do they want to learn? Do I know them anyway in my classroom, or I simply go there and start teaching? I do not mind about whether they come with prior knowledge in the class or they come with zero knowledge in class. And if I have both of the levels, what do I do as a lecturer? But the other reality that you need to understand when you venture into effective e-learning is that your learners have not changed. But what you're doing is that you're simply introducing a new delivery method to support your teaching and learning. And therefore, students need to know that you are still the same lecturer. And hence, your consistency in what you do online there needs to be the same. They need to know that this is our lecturer ABCD, and this is how he does his things online. So consistency is very important so that you bond with your students out there. So this is the reality. This is what is happening out there. But there are several problems with course design that each one of us needs to think about. It is not simply getting your PowerPoints, your documents, your PDF documents, and taking and dumping within a learning management system and you're okay. That should not be the case. There are so many studies out there you can read, which have shown that many of the e-learning projects, they actually start at the implementation stage, that there is technology already there, and therefore we dump content there. People have not taken time to think about what they are going to dump or to put on the e-learning management system or the learning management system. The analysis and design stages are overlooked in this particular case. They do not analyze their learners. They do not analyze the delivery approaches out there to find out which one can I use to deliver my course unit in the best way possible. They never design the content to reflect their learners and the delivery method. And this is why you find that people create certain activities within learning management systems and the students shun them, and they never use them. And they wonder, why did they not come to this activity? You never thought about them. We never get to know the rationale, the learning rationale. Why are we doing what we need to do? We are focusing more onto the technology. As long as the learning management system is there to support us, the rest we don't know. We dump there whatever we found, and then it's done. We never sensitize our staff members on how to best use technology for teaching and learning. A comment was just raised by somebody from Bishop Stewart. we just wish all lecturers should be able to know exactly what they are supposed to be doing when they are virtually out there. So sensitization is not done a lot, and institutions expect the staff to actually get on board and get rolling. I just want to give you an example. When we are rolling out e-learning within Nkumba University, a lot of training has been done to make sure staff are sensitized to the last. And we keep on doing it even today. Tomorrow, we keep on. There are some staff already of Nkumba online also attending this, just to continuously sensitize them about what they need to do right. But what we need to know that for any effective online course, there are certain requirements around analysis. We need to understand the learners out there. What are those learning needs in terms of the competence, in terms of the learners themselves? So that when we go to develop content, we develop it for the multiple levels of learning, those who came with prior knowledge and those who came with zero knowledge. Those who are visual learners and those who are auditory learners or tactile learners and so on. We need to be able to design the course with a clear end in mind. What are those outcomes we need to have output from this course? So that you know even the assessments you are going to give, you know where the students are going to engage in the forums, you know where students are going to engage in groups, you have a clear end in mind. And that is all done before you do it online. That means you've analyzed, you've designed your course before it actually gets online. There's several principles of instruction design that we may want to look at. When we think about analyzing the existing course, what do we do? If from here you're going to go and analyze your course unit, what are you supposed to be doing? One, you'll be able to identify the important techniques and methods already in use out there. Before you take it to online, what is that? What methods are they being? Let's take an example, research methods at bachelor's level. How do they teach research methods? Some people do it in this way, some people do it. What is out there? Get to understand it. Get to understand the levels of learning, the learner approaches, and the delivery methods that are out there. Know that under the levels of learning, I can come with no knowledge, I can come with mid-knowledge, I can come with prior knowledge, which is advanced knowledge, into your class session. And just imagine you have a mix of all these people, and all of them, you are geared to teaching them. So how do you deal with all these groups of people in your class? And that's where it requires you to have completely done a good course design, that at no point one is left out. As you're handling the people came with no knowledge, those who have advanced knowledge are either reading a book that you place there to even provide them with more knowledge, or they are engaging in a discussion forum on the side. You just need to do something. But what you need to do as you analyze its intention is create a certain framework that is going to support you in developing that online course. Because remember, it is still the same course you are delivering in the traditional way. But now you plan to take it online. First, understand clearly what you do in the physical or traditional space. And then know, what can I take from all this and transform it to be online? And what can I not take? But if you are going to now dig for the levels of learning, you need to be able to ask certain questions. When you see students coming into your class, are they attending for the same reasons? Do they arrive with the same preconception within your class? Do they have similar levels of ability? And do they learn in the same way? Once you are able to answer those questions, then you are able to deal with those students. But until you answer those questions or ask yourself those questions, you never know what it actually means. And therefore, if you are going to cope with all this variety of learners, some of the things you need to understand is we are very different. And therefore, we learn and understand in different ways. So you have different learners within your class. You appreciate that. However, you may not only address a particular learner, and therefore you have to completely come up with techniques that try to accommodate as many learners as possible in your class and avoid taking only one direction to one specific level of learner. You need to understand that learners' patterns change with time. After 2 sessions of teaching, a person who came with no knowledge, they may decide to read ahead of you via YouTube, via the resources you've given them. And the next time you will come in class, they will completely be different learners. So you need to take that into consideration, that learners change. We have a lot of adult returnees within our classrooms. And the way they reason is very different from a person who has just come from secondary. So how do you deal with all this combination of learners within your class? Understand them. So how you deal with them in the class, in the traditional classroom, is probably how you would want to deal with them online. But then you'll need a tool to support you achieve that. Just imagine up to this time, we are still analyzing. But what we need to understand is that for a wide range of learners, there are several approaches out there that can support them. We have what we call the surface learning approach. And this is one which involves information reproduction, that I give you information and reproduce it the way I have given it to you. It is encouraging you as a learner to memorize what I'm giving you. It has a lot of these procedural activities being given to you all the time. And this is usually meant to leave the lecturer in this form of thinking that he's the provider or she's the provider of knowledge. It is surface. But then there is another one called strategic learning approach, which involves organizing, achieving, and for it, its intention is more to get you structured in your way of learning and availing as many as possible methods of how you can learn. So in this case, it is giving you a bit of independence in how you would want to learn. I don't simply dictate to you everything you would want to use for learning. I give you some independence and you are able to learn. You search for yourself. Then there is the third level, which is called the deep learning approach. This involves knowledge transformation, that it expects the learner to transform what they are being given into completed something else, construct their own knowledge, their own understanding of what has been availed to them. And to the teacher, the intention is to get these people understand the content by themselves. The teachers here become more of advisors. In strategic, they are more there to facilitate. In surface, they are there more to transmit. They simply give you. So who would you want to be? Would you want to be a transmitter? Would you want to be somebody who is going to advise? Or would you want to be a facilitator of this learning process? So until you understand this clearly and decide what you want to be, you may never really think about the different activities that you want to engage in. We need to think about the courses themselves. That once I'm creating this course, I'm creating it at different levels to accommodate all. And therefore, when I'm creating my content, it may start with the minimal knowledge to the highest knowledge. But once I give it out in a form which is the I-pull. The I-pull is that let the students pull for themselves from whatever I've given them. Now that means you have pushed them more into the facilitation and advisory role for yourself. But when you give the information in form of an I-push, that after one content has been accomplished, they can never go into the next content. So it is procedural. You are just pushing for them. Without you pushing for them, they cannot be able to learn. So all this you put into mind when you are designing these online courses. Think about the teaching. Teaching should be flexible. It should be student-centered and self-directed learning through a variety of ways. And this is why it's no surprise that you can be able to combine both strategic and deep learning approaches so that it avails to you the best way to deliver your teaching and learning. Your teaching should be interactive and stimulating. Bring the real world to your class. Form of case studies, bring role play to really get students to act out in different things. But as you teach, think about the delivery, because the delivery connects very clearly with this. The delivery methods relate with the approach you selected. When you decide to select the surface learning approach, expect you are going to be more of a transmitter. And this is where emphasis is on direct instruction, task analysis, reinforcement. And all these tasks are actually fixed to the teacher. That the teacher is there to simply present this and the learners simply absorb. They take in what they are supposed to be taking in. So without the teacher, in that case, the learners cannot learn because the transmitter is not there to transmit to them. So it is more of surface learning. But With the transaction learning is where emphasis is on linking, connecting, integrating ideas. And here, you give more flexibility to the learner, more independence to the learner to be able to control a bit of their learning process. And this is where the student-centeredness comes in and allows the teacher to be more of a facilitator. And this is why you see it is very clear that it comes in at the strategic level. But then there is another one, which is the transformational delivery method, where emphasis is now on the individuals constructing their own meaning out of what the teacher has told them to do by analyzing, critiquing, reflecting, and therefore this gives the teacher a role of being an advisor. And the requirement is that learners will be able to do a lot for themselves under this. Starting to think about it, the transformation delivery method would be an uphill for many of the bachelor programs. But it is the delivery method that will be the most appropriate in the 21st century for postgraduate training. Because you expect these people to come already with prior knowledge about the area of study, and you would want to really get them to create their own understanding out of what you're teaching. Transactional is one of that delivery method that suits the 21st century bachelor's program teaching and learning. But what happens across board is that institutions, they need to sit down and decide, what do we use? We have seen many institutions doing more of the blend, transactional and transformation. Because at the end of the day, they want to really graduate out a student who can be a critical thinker, who can be an analyzer, who is capable of constructing their own knowledge. And it's not only at the postgraduate, and even in the bachelor's, we need to output such students so that they can be ready for the industry. So you need to reflect around and say, what am I going to use? And the activities you will actually deploy, they should be able to fit for the transactional or transformation. It's all about analyzing and cost design. Let's take an example. Planning, you may decide that I have a course unit I'm teaching, and every week I have to teach this course unit. But in my plan, what do I have? You know that you have a start date and an end date for that course unit, when you're supposed to start teaching it and end teaching it. You know already the teaching load. You know already the estimated class size, and you know what you are supposed to do weekly. Let's take an example. You're teaching research methods on a Monday. You've taught it at 11 a.m., but then you set yourself in a structured way that on Monday, this is when I develop content for either my 4th, 5th class, because I've already created the content for my 2nd and 3rd. On Monday, when you teach, because you've already decided I'm going to engage students in discussion forums around the topic I will be teaching next week, it is the time you release that topic for students to engage. If you have any email activity you are supposed to, this is the time you release it. On the Monday, the day, it's because students are still, they're having still fresh of the course content that you actually offered them. Tuesday, this is when you get into now the discussion forum and see what are they doing. You take on the role of a facilitator. See where they are going wrong. Try to bring them, try to facilitate the actual entire discussion. You are transactioning. You may decide, because you've decided to be transformation, allow them to the entire independence and you don't go there at all. For bachelor's students, you'll get shocked. They will drop out on the first day or second day of the discussion. So know when to use transformation and transaction. On Wednesday, you continue with the facilitation within the discussion forum and even engage the students probably on another real-time activity where possible. You can decide to give them a group assignment. Thursday, you continuously go, at least be every day, be there in a discussion forum once for them to get to know that our teacher, our lecturer is with us, and therefore they will not mess up. They will follow the rules because they know you are there and watching. Friday, close everything off. If it's a discussion forum for that week, which is supposed to prepare them for the next session, close it off on Friday, make recommendations where possible, and then tell them to meet into the next class session. And the next Monday, what you'll do, you'll go there to be more of a facilitator because majority of the teaching happened already in the discussion forum. So this is one way of really trying to get the students with you at all time. You are being an effective teacher or lecturer, but it all goes to planning. Plan, plan, plan. What you need to know, the moment you are going online, you need to know what is that so-called online community of yours. If you transformed this traditional class and took it online, you need to find out, has anything improved? Or it's still the same people who are participating in the physical classroom that are continuously participating only also in the online classroom, in the discussion forums and the like. The moment you find that it is the same people, you may need to drop that specific activity because you've not created any impact. You still have the same. It would be as well as still having your same traditional class out there. If it's still the same people attending, out of the 50, you are having the same 20 people attending, you've not created the impact. But if it's a different community out there, then you are doing and picking up on new people. And then you need to keep on doing what you are doing right. If it's a discussion forum and you are having what we call the blended learning, whatever you do in the tradition, try to also get it done in the online so that you don't lose out on the other set of community, student community that is following you, that is with you in a class. So what makes a good online activity? The moment you can tell this is a good online activity that I set for the student, it should be meaningful and purposeful. Why am I creating this discussion forum? What is the purpose? It's because you've noted in the traditional classroom, you only have 10 people discussing, and you would want to get more and more participants in the forum. you create it and you have 40 people participating, it has been meaningful. Create clear instructions at all times. These are very, very important. If the assessment is for 1 week, please create clear instructions and tell them what will happen if you don't submit on time. The system will close you up and you'll get a 0. Students take instructions very, very, very carefully. So have clear instructions. Create a direction for students in these activities, for example, discussion forum. Start with a very clear question to kickstart the session and leave them to engage. Just take on the facilitation role. Watch. If you see them going off, bring them back. But just provide that leadership, the focus, stimulate the group to continuously engage. Support the team. If somebody is misbehaving, show your leadership in there. Never forget, be a participant. Involve yourself as a participant. If somebody is discussing something interesting, come in and also try to respond and be a participant. They will see that the discussion is between the students and the lecturer. They love it. You've gone to their level to be effective teaching and learning. Always avoid the closed questions and closed responses. This will not get the students to continuously engage. It will just close the thread of discussion. Do not forget to set clear outlines for the facilitation response time. We are doing this within this time, and after that time, it is closed. Whoever has not participated in it, these are the repercussions. 1 or 2 of that, students will get into the norm and it will be a habit for them to participate and engage. That's what we need. Colleagues, it is time for us to try to analyze ourselves. Are we doing the right? Or we are still stuck in that very old? Do we know our learners? Do we know how we want to teach? So what we are saying, you'll consider any course you are teaching this semester. Because we've not separated you in the groups, avoid the group thing that will appear, okay? So using your course outline, you're going to conduct what we call a learning needs analysis. You'll address issues related to the current learning process. You'll consider your aims, outcomes, learner profile. You'll consider the learner autonomy. You'll consider the learning approaches. You'll consider the delivery methods. And you'll also consider what materials or activities am I going to engage my students in. If we're in groups, we're going to provide feedback and the like. And then ask ourselves, did we learn anything from how our colleagues are doing it differently? Remember, at this point, you are still analyzing your traditional class before you take it online. You have a thinking of taking it online, but you still first need to understand what are you doing in the traditional way. At this point, I'm sure my colleagues have shared to you a form, a tool, which each one of you should be able to utilize. Try to go through it. I don't know how many minutes we are going to give ourselves. And then after those minutes have elapsed, we shall come back here and try to show you one tool that has been filled in so that you can be able to mark yourself and say, okay, this is how I was able to do it. Did I do it right? And things of that kind. The purpose of all this is to get you to learn how can you analyze your learning before it actually takes off. Any questions? My colleagues out there, has the tool been shared?
Fiona, can you share the tool? Make the tool available, please. Fiona? Fiona?
I'm sharing right now. I'm sharing
Okay.
in the chat.
Make it in the chat and maybe also on the screen, maybe.
I like what Kay has shared. Thank you for that. It's one way of actually really doing. She says one of the ways that I did was to set some assignment that are to be put on a shared platform, but the assignment required each person to link it to their own experience. See, very good. Then I give equal marks for students to comment on the assignment, usually providing some questions to guide the student. The facilitation role, you see, and so many examples I think many people are actually giving in here.
I like to compliment what Professor Kay has said. The other thing that we sometimes also do is to encourage the students to critique their own colleagues' work. So if you're working in a group and someone has made you come to present, but that contribution, the peer critique.
Okay, guys.
Hello? So the peer criticism allows the students to own the work, and you can actually easily tell whether the person the work is presenting has been his authentic or her authentic work. So it's a tactic. We found that besides just coming to present, you ask the colleagues, even the same group members, critique the contribution each member has made. And it has been very effective in identifying the colleagues' level of contribution, but also helping them out to improve their own contribution to work. Thank you.
Good. Fiona, are you able?
Please turn off screen share so that I share my screen.
Oh, but I think you can share. Everybody can share. Okay, let me try to pull it up.
No, you are not sharing. She can share. She can share.
Fiona, try to share. You have the rights to share.
Okay.
But I would want also for it to be shared to the participants in the chat.
We are putting one in the chat room, Professor.
Can you do it now, please? Can you increase the size?
Prof and colleagues, we have to know that we only have about 30 minutes because we shall have a 1 hour break for lunch. So let's know, we have to decide how much time we give this activity.
So
we
break
10 minutes.
Can you take them through that? Are you taking them through that?
Fiona, you can, and I can complement. Or would you like me to focus on it?
Okay, actually, what we need to do, we are just going to go through it and then allow them to do it by themselves in the minutes as we rest out of this session. And then when we come back, I think we shall be continuing with the rest of the afternoon session, not so?
Yes. So Francis.
Yes, sir.
as a logistical output, we have 30 minutes towards lunch break. So maybe we can walk the members through this tool, allow them during the the rest of the 20 minutes to try to complete the tool. So when we come after the break, we give a 15 minutes reflection on the tool, and then we start with another session. Isn't that better?
That's okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, so Fiona, can we walk through this tool? But maybe, so maybe the purpose, colleagues, to emphasize, I know, Prof, you've been talking too much, so your throat may need some water. Basically, the tool is to help us to reflect. Remember, we talked about planning. So how do we plan our course? So this is a learning needs assessment. And as you can see, the idea is to carry out a learning needs to inform your course design processes. Okay? So choose a course we recommend. So the learning needs assessment should be the first step in designing an online component in your group. Spend approximately 20 minutes discussing the course outline, designed, assigned it to you. So we recommend that you pick a course, maybe a course like research methods, a course like maybe introduction to computing, introduction to programming, or agricultural economics, or name it. So you put your course name. Then the next part, that's the table when I'm saying, what level of learner autonomy, independence, do you expect for, to work with in your course? Remember, Prof indicated the levels of autonomy. Fiona, can you tell us the levels of autonomy, if you remember them?
Yes, we looked at the procedural autonomy. We looked at the personal autonomy and the significant autonomy.
Okay, so
this is the procedural autonomy. Okay, you can carry on, Rick.
Okay.
Okay, we looked at those three. And for that case, you're going to conduct one which you think the particular course you've chosen would fit in.
Okay, so maybe colleagues, for the purpose of reflection, this was covered by Prof in his presentation. Procedural autonomy is largely teacher-centered, okay? More or less instruction-oriented. A personal autonomy, the learner is given some degree of autonomy, but still a teacher has a little bit of control on the ordering of activities. And the significant autonomy is whereby the learner has total control. Like look at PhD students who do PhD by research. They decide which to do, which activity to do, and by when. But when you compare graduate students doing maybe a research seminar, which topic to discuss is largely defined by lecturer. So you can see that one is closely like a that is a personal autonomy. They have autonomy within a constrained boundary. So next, Fiona, can you scroll down to? So the type of autonomy you anticipate to provide your learners will inform largely your learning approach. And I think we remember we had about 3 different learning approaches. One was the transmission. In this case, the teacher or the lecturer, you are the broadcasting engine, the machine that broadcasts, you have a megaphone. We have a transactional learning approach. This involves some degree of interaction between the teacher and the learners. For example, in the transactional approach, a good example would be you put up a discussion activity, so the learners provide their context, and then after that, they are able to, as a teacher, you are able to provide feedback. So really there's a back and forth kind of engagement. And of course, the last part is called transformation. Transformation is whereby the learners are exposed with basic concept, but they are allowed to manipulate this knowledge and create a new construct of their understanding. So these are kinds of the approaches you may have to reflect on your course. Each course you would like to undertake. Fiona, number 3. So therefore, we know that teaching and learning is basically activity-oriented. The activities are performed by different users, the teacher and the learners. Here we have given you some sort of common activities you find in most of our delivery mechanisms: presentation, group work, tutorials, and others. So we would like you, as a part of this conceptualizing your online transfer, to identify which of these activities, some others may not even be here, but which activities would you like to incorporate in your online course in reflection of the learning approach you would like to implement. Continue. And I'm sure most of these activities are common to us as most of guys in this room. So then, as I alluded earlier, which approach are you going to choose? So we appreciate that in any pedagogical practice, hardly do we use a single approach for delivery. Largely, all the three approaches, you normally use them, but you find that in a particular course design, you may rely on one more than the other. For example, if you're teaching undergraduate students in year one, you may find that a lot of your activities or approach is largely transmission because you are delivering basic concepts and basic knowledge to the learners. But if you look at discussing graduate students or PhD students, master students or PhD students, you will see a lot of more transformative because graduate students are actually trained to produce new knowledge. Okay, so transformation we find is more dominant compared to transmission at different levels. So we encourage you to identify which of those activities will be transformation, which activities will be transaction, which activities will be transformation. So you want to scroll down? Then what kind of learning might your chosen delivery method and learning activity foster? What is that would you like to see? So in principle, if you see this tool, you'll actually see slightly a one-to-one mapping. Transmission largely leads to surface learning. Transactions oftentimes leads to strategic learning, and transformation oftentimes leads to deep learning. So you'll try to map your activities in the delivery mechanism to the desired learning outcome you'd like to see. Are you following, colleagues? I shouldn't be alone in the room.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Continue, Fiona. I wish the end. Good. Therefore, the ultimate outcome for this design is to help you as a teacher to conceptualize what you call a course storyboard. The level of autonomy I want to give my learners, the degree of knowledge comprehension I want to pass, the learning outcome I would like to achieve, the kind of teaching mechanism they want to apply, and the delivery techniques I would like to achieve. So here I will expect you to identify the graphical representation of your outcome. For example, level of autonomy, if you want procedure, yes, so level of knowledge, is it basically giving facts or more comprehension? So what is the learning outcome? Of course, there we've already said it's the surface. And when you're talking about teaching, are you trying to use behaviorist approach? And level transmission, as you can deliver approach, you can see it's a larger transmission. So try to get a particular course you are following, try to fill that course through this mechanism. And then at the end of when we come to after the break, we'll walk you through a pre-populated tool that works on a particular course, and we'll discuss with you the consideration we made under each step to help us conceptualize our course design. Colleagues, I think Prof and everyone I submit for now. Anybody who has questions on the tool, something for clarification, we are more than welcome to support you. So just download the tool, put it on your computer, and pick a course you like to do, and then try to walk through this activity, and we'll see you thereafter. So Francis, over to you.
Thank you very much. Fiona, I think you have made a change on that level of autonomy, so maybe you reshare, or Joseph can reshare the updated version. So Professor Jude, can you go to the next session so that we can complete our morning session before we go for lunch?
Francis, the next session that comes in will require us to actually do another practical session. So going into another session of a practical session, before we actually get a result out of this, I think they may not follow, they may get confused more. And we need the results from this to feed into the next one.
Okay.
So my suggestion would be, would rather take a break now and then come back a bit early, and then we start with the feedback from the tool, and then we move towards our next session, because it's a continuation from this session.
So then can we take 1 hour and we come at, no, not 1 hour. Yes, we come back at 2:10. So we can use 20 minutes to provide this response. Is that okay?
I would suggest that we come back at exactly 2.
Okay, fine. So then we can use this time to take our lunch wherever we are. I will be playing some video documentaries just to add on to the topic we are discussing. So I think we can take this time to rest, to stretch a bit, and then come back.